Hello, it's time once again for a little good news, spreading God's good news, if only a Saturday at a time. I'm Isaiah, and welcome back if you're a returning listener, or if this is your first time to the show, I also want to welcome you. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and trying something new. Now, if you haven't heard this, or if you want to hear it again, this podcast is entirely Christian. And what I do here is I try and educate as well as equip those who don't really know what footing they are with God, or you just don't know what to do next. So, sit down, have a snack, and enjoy. I hope you learned something because I certainly did.
Hey guys, it's Isaiah once more. I wanted to welcome you to a little good news as usual. If you're a first time listener, hello. If you're not brand new, I also want to thank you again. Today, we are going to be talking about children. And I, for one, love children. And right now, I am thinking about how creepy that sounds, especially on tape. I am sorry. But truly, I do very much enjoy children. I work with children's pastors. I do work in children's ministry. I am directly involved with children and plan to be a pastor. I am looking into children's pastor. It depends on how God moves in my life. So I have a pretty good grasp on what children like, what children need, and what God's looking at children and how he sees that. But I wanted, for you guys, because I am not going to be ignorant nor arrogant and assume that all of you guys are Christians out there, that you guys are born-again Christians and that you completely believe in God. I'd be arrogant, I'd be dumb to believe that, because not all of us are going to be type A personalities, of course. So I took the liberty of not only searching what the Bible has to say about children, but what the top 5 religions include. Well, of course, it'd be the other top 4, because Christianity apparently is at number 1. But the other religions and what their view on children is. And the results were surprising. They were extremely surprising. So first, let's go into Matthew 18, it's Matthew chapter 18, verse 13. I'm sorry. No. Chapter 19, verse 13. Excuse me. And I have a KJV Bible, so just please excuse that. Then they were brought unto him little children, that he would put his hands on them and pray. And the disciples rebuked them. But Jesus said, Suffer little children, and forbid them not. For come unto me, for such is the kingdom of heaven. Then he laid hands on them and parted thence. Now, with the KJV Bible, it is a bit more difficult to understand. It's more of a direct translation of the Bible. But basically what that is saying, and I have the study Bible, so it kind of gives a little overview of what that was just saying. And it lives literally a sentence on Jesus blessing the children. And if you look at different things on the Bible, he lays hand on them and he prays with them and he heals them. But he also says, Suffer little children and forbid them not to come unto me. You can't forbade children to do things. You can't undermine children to come unto me. That's not how this works. Of such is the kingdom of heaven. This rule not only extends to me, he's saying, but it extends from God himself, from the kingdom of heaven. And to me, that was a bit of an odd one when I first read that. I already had knowledge of you had to be a child to come into the world, to come into God. And the more I talk with people, and the more I talk with older people, it's very firm that they believe this. And why this is so is when you look at adults, and I don't want to put blame on anyone here, it's just something, when you look at adults and they're doing something, yeah, they've done it usually for years and years and years. And they've done it a lot of times, because we are creatures of habit, the same way for those years and years and years, unless they learn a new way that was better in their opinion, or so on and so forth. And so they do it the same way for years and years and years. Children, however, are very, very open to doing things in new ways. And I can tell you that just from watching them play a game. They see someone doing something different, they'll try and copy that motion, see if it works better for them. They're very open to different things. And what makes the children very, I'd say adaptable is a good word, very adaptable, is that they're willing to try those new things, as adults are more stuck in their ways. And this very much means that children are more like molding clay, where adults have been fired in the kiln of, let's say, life. They're they're tough, they're rigid, and that stands up against the world. But in God's eyes, he can mold clay a lot better than he can pottery. And so we see that children are very, very adaptable, and Jesus loves children. There are tons of verses on the Bible of just him talking to children, him being with a child. And the main point that I kind of want you guys to get out of today is that you're never too young to hear God's word and to act upon it. And that's kind of was the turning point of Christianity. I looked at, of course, Christianity. I looked at the Islamic faith. I looked at Buddhism as well as Hinduism. I also looked at agnosticism. I think I'm saying that right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Usually people are very familiar with Christianity and somewhat Buddhism, but the rest are a bit of a mystery. And at the first of the school year, I would have never said this, but thank you, Mrs. Trent. Thank you very much for teaching us about all the different religions. It has been an enormous help. Thank you very much. But we learned about Buddhism and Confucianism and Hinduism, and I learned about agnosticism a couple days ago. So basically, to very shortly summarize up, and I am so sorry if I degrade one of your religions, if I'm not explaining it properly. I'm explaining it the way I understand it. If not, please leave in the comments down below a correction, because I'm not going to be ignorant to say that what I know about these religions is completely true. I mean, it's the internet. Come on. But Confucianism is based on 5 of the main relationships in your life. It's father to son, then it is friend to friend, brother to brother, leader to follower, and then I think husband to wife. And I'm not sure on the husband to wife, but it's based around those 5 categories and giving respect in all those categories. So we instantly see that the father and the son relationship, it's got to be respect both ways. The son must show respect to the father, but that father also must show respect to the son. And it's a swinging door that goes both ways, and it's a really nice system. Buddhism is mostly based on the Sevenfold Path that was laid down by Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha, the teacher. And he grew up in India. And he wanted to negate the sorrow in the world by following the Sevenfold Path to get rid of all sorrow, which was also which stemmed from desire and greed and passion, as he was saying. And they also see a very reverence for children, that they should be respected, that they are a gift. And not only that, because in Buddhism, a major thing is rebirth. These children were not only your child; they may have contained. They may have been a rebirth of one of your ancestors or one of your loved ones that just recently passed, and so an extra respect would have gone to there. In Hinduism, it's sort of the same thing. Now, Hinduism is a deep and complex religion with many complexities, for a lack of a better word right now. But it is similar to the Buddhism in fact that they very much reverence children, and they kind of not shun, but it's more of you want to have a child, you want to have an heir, otherwise you may be looked down upon. And the final one, agnosticism. Agnosticism is something I had no idea existed, but it was kind of an opening of the eyes that it does exist. Agnosticism is basically saying we are ignorant to think that we know God's will, that we know anything of God because our minds cannot fathom this because our knowledge is so small and our knowledge is so limited. And all of them say the same thing. Children should be reverenced. But Christianity takes it one step farther. Christianity says we should be like children. Christianity says that children should answer the call. Because A, they're adaptable. They can go anywhere and do anything without a slightest thought. B, they're naive. And I'm hesitant to use ignorant or naive because they're innocent would be the best word for that. They don't look at the world with biased eyes. They look at the world how they know it to be, and their knowledge is limited. So they look at it through a whole new spectrum of colors and wonder and beauty. And the more I try and look into God's word and try and be a child in my spirit, it truly does amaze me how the little things like the sunrises, how beautiful they are. I mean, even looking in the city, how beautiful everything is. It's amazing. And now that we've gotten all the railroad tracks, but anyway, children are very, very, well, hey, they're absent-minded as well. Working on that in my spirit. But if you will, turn to Isaiah chapter 11, verse 6, and it says the wolf. The title, if I can speak this morning, is "The wolf shall also dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid," or goat, "and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and the little child shall lead them." Now, if you don't know your animals very well, many things of these are not like the other. We know from just context of the world, a wolf, a leopard, a lion, not very sure what a fatling is. But these three, especially, are predators. They hunt lambs. They hunt small goats. They hunt calves and probably a fatling. And so we see that these predators are laying down with these animals that they would usually hunt and kill and eat. That doesn't make sense. In no context does that make sense. These animals are brutal killers. And even though they're not weasels in the fact that they eat more or they kill more than they eat, these things will kill to have food for later. And so we see this, it's weird, it's odd. And then the last part, "and a little child shall lead them." And in my notes, it doesn't give a clear description, but a little child shall lead them. A child shall lead them. And we get this a lot in the Bible. I mean, David and Goliath, and I'm not going to be able to name anymore. In the episode that was lost, I talked about Jeremiah, who thought himself a child. I mean, David, he was the weakest and the smallest of his brothers. All of his brothers were in the military. He was a shepherd, a lowly shepherd, one of the lowest, and yet he defeated Goliath. He became king of Israel. The more and more you look in the Bible, the more and more you'll see God uses the weak, the children of the Bible, to lead the strong, those who are considered high up, those who are considered the predators. And you don't see this in other religions. I may go so far to quote the Quran in a couple places. As I saw, "Your wealth and your children are only a trial, whereas God, with him, is a great reward," in quotes, paradise. And that is from the Quran 64, verse 15. I'm not very sure how the Quran works, and I'd love to learn more about the Islamic faith and how their ideals work. But in the notes, and I'll put the links in the description below where I found this stuff, it says it's interesting to note that Islam has always covered the rights of children. The Islamic view of childhood states that it is a unique period in the individual's life. This is a sharp contrast to Eastern European ideology, where the concept of childhood was not addressed until the 16th century. It is not that the West did not have children or young people, but rather they considered to be small adults with the same needs and wants as adults. So Western and European ideology was looking at children as adults. And God is saying, look as adults as children. Because to me, the more and more I look at Christianity, and this may not go for you guys, but the more and more I look at Christianity, the more and more I see it's a flipping of everything that you knew. Everything that life has put in perspective, that you know as a stereotype, or that you know as just a general rule of concept. It gets flipped on its head. It's completely and utterly odd to see these things, but in some ways they make sense. And the more you look at them and you stare at them and you think about them, it's, yeah, that makes more sense than what I was actually taught. One more verse that I want to point to you guys in the Bible is one that many of you have heard, and the one that actually my school Christian club is based off of, and that is 1 Timothy 4:12. Of course, it says, "Let no man despise thy youth, but be thou an example of the believers in word and conversation, in charity and spirit, in faith and in purity." All of that says, don't let anyone look down upon you because you were a child, because you were a youth. But set an example in the believers, in your words, in your conversation, in what you do, in your spirit, in your faith, and in your purity. Set an example. Because children are, how I see it, children are the next generation. They're the next thing. For adults, I'm sorry to say it, sometimes as adults, you guys need to move out of the way. The worst thing sometimes an adult can do is help us. And I'm saying this from a kid's standpoint, and that may be completely wrong, but to me it makes sense. Because let's say, a dad is helping his or her son walk. Well, you can't just carry the kid around everywhere if she falls down. You tried to walk, you fell down. We're not going to try that again. You could be hurt. Instead, you just sit there. You let him fall down, you let him cry, you pick him back up, put on his feet. And I can tell you from personal experience, that is the hardest thing to do. To watch your child, quote unquote, in pain, in suffering. Basically saying, I don't want to do this anymore. This hurts. But it's going to help you. I'm sorry. It hurts right now. But later on, you're going to thank me. And that is a very overused sentence in our culture today, where it has been given a negative connotation. What I also wanted to share with you guys today is something that I did a report on in, 8th grade, 2 years ago. If you guys haven't heard of it, it's called National History Day, just passed. And you're required to do, not required, but I was required to do a project. And they give you a main topic for that year, NHD does, and you're supposed to make either a website, a poster, a paper, a kind of a skit, or a documentary. I chose to do a website. And the topic that year, for all of it, was rights and responsibilities. Well, I saw a definite rise in women's rights over the years. But the thing was, many people were doing the rights of African Americans as they came in the mid 1900s, as well as the rights of women also in the mid 1900s. And so I wanted to do the women's rights, of course, but do it in a different way. And so I found abortion. Abortion is a very, very controversial topic because scientists can't prove that fetuses or earlier versions of the fetus, I'm not very technical with the terms, but they can't feel pain. There's no scientific evidence that they can feel pain. And so I did a ton of research on abortion. And the 1973 Roe versus Wade case, it made abortion legal. It was not considered murder. But many doctors wouldn't do it at that time because it feels wrong. It feels very wrong. And so you were left with some back alley clinic that was not very effective. And if it did, it usually scarred the mother. And it was very sad. Some mothers would die during the abortion process. And many babies were shown it was very disturbing. It was to see a fetus, a small baby, and about the size of a quarter. They'd lay it on a quarter and show you, and it was dead. It was morbid and it was terrible, but it was an eye-opener. It very much was. And just some statistics based on available state-level data, and I'll link where I got these statistics down below. An estimated 977,000 abortions took place in 2014, down from approximately 984,000 abortions in 2013. And even that was down from 1.02 million abortions in 2012. That is nuts. That is terrifying. And through 2014, nearly 53 million legal abortions occurred in the U.S. That's just legal. It's legal. That's not illegal abortions. I said that like it would be a surprise that there'd be another side of abortion that wasn't legal. 20% of all U.S. pregnancies, excluding miscarriages, are in an abortion. 21%. It's sad. It's very much sad. And depending on how you look at it, you're not doing any harm. But in God's eyes, it's different. In every religion you look at, children are a blessing. And especially in the Christian faith. God has given you this child. Yeah, it's going to be difficult to be a parent. No one said it was going to be easy. No one said it was going to be easy to be a Christian either. No one told us, oh, here's what you do. Same with being a parent. But what amazes me is how many people have no value of this child's life. Even in these stages, it will be a child. You know that for sure. It will be a child, whether boy or girl. And today we have gotten over many of the gender stereotypes where in Asia and places over there, and some in the U.S., that people don't want little girls because of their culture and their heritage. The females cannot inherit the inheritance of their husband. If they die, the husband's family will, and the woman moves out. Therefore, we've lost a set of hands instead of gaining one. And so we do see an up thing of we're not throwing away, but still abortions. We're throwing away these children. We're throwing away these people who could be the next Einstein. They could be vastly more intelligent than we could ever conceive. God has a plan for them, an entire plan. As we talked about it, that I knew you before I put you in the womb. He knows how many hairs are on our head. He knows the plan he has for us. So he knows that child's story, that child's fate, his plan for that child. Before they're born, before they even grow many of the vital organs, before they become out of the double digits in a cellular number. He knows that child's story. And then we toss it away like it was a dirty McDonald's wrapper. We throw it away. And I just wanted to bring that up, not to be morbid or not to be disgusting, just to bring that up and for you to think about that. Just how many lives we throw away. And I know I said that I wouldn't do another verse, but there was one that I really, really wanted to take a look at, and that would be Psalms 127, verse 3 through 5. 127, verse 3 through 5. Lo, children are a heritage of the Lord, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. As arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, so are children of the youth. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them. They shall not be ashamed. They shall speak with the enemies in the gate. So, lo are the children of the heritage of the Lord. They're God's children, and the fruit of the womb is his reward. These children, they're his reward. The arrows are in the hand of a mighty man, and so are the children of the youth. So it's already setting up the metaphor that children are arrows. Happy is the man that hath his quiver full of them, has many children, and shall not be ashamed, but they shall speak with the enemies in the gate. That last part, the enemies in the gate. And after flipping through several other notes, it brings me to this one, in which court proceedings usually were done at a gate. Let me find the exact one. Court proceedings, social interaction, and commercial transaction normally took place in the gates of a city. So, they shall not be ashamed, but speak with enemies in the gate. They will. To me, and this means different things to different people, to me that means the court proceedings. They shall speak with the enemies. They won't be the enemies. They'll bring the father or the family good fortune, and not good fortune, but a good name. And there's tons of other verses of bring your child up in the Lord, and he shall never stray from that path. Just to name one. And it's impressive how many times the Lord makes sure we understand. Children are not only our heritage, our legacy, they're his. That they're not only the next generation of Christians, they're a new hope, a new life, a new chance to spread his word farther than any of us could have ever done. And with that, I think we are all out of time for today. It has been a longer episode than usual. I'm very sorry for that. If you don't like long episodes, I'm sorry. But let's go ahead and pray. Lord, I just thank you for this wonderful day. Lord, and these wonderful, wonderful people that are listening to today. Lord, and that you've brought them here. Lord, I hope that they learn something today. Not by me, Lord, but by you speaking into them. Lord, I ask that you would just comfort them, Lord, and give them peace and strength and wisdom and intelligence. Lord, whatever they need, you know better than I. Lord, I thank you for growing this podcast. Lord, and I hope that in your hands it would grow even more. In your mighty name, amen. Well, again, I think that's all the time we have for today, and I want to thank you once again, and remember, be blessed.